it is Karen and Jimmy coming to you from the GBA Hangout. We have a special guest today. We want to introduce Fire Chief Pat Dale to us. Say hi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the invitation, Karen and Jimmy. I'm glad to be here.
You
Thanks
have
for
a special
joining.
announcement, and we cannot wait to hear all about the good things that are going on in the community and how it saves us money. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. So.
Yes, you did.
Jimmy, what's been going on with you?
Well, we're getting along. It's nice to see some businesses start to slowly open the right way. You know, we were tied in with Pierce County as they were giving away a lot of PPE supplies to businesses that applied for it. I believe, I actually don't have a good info on if that's still going, but I think you can still apply. They're giving away masks and things like that, and thermometers as well. We county was good to work with our office, Edward Jones office in Graham. We had a faulty thermometer right away and called them, and they said, hey, we'll send you a new one. Don't worry about it. And we're just good to work with. So even through the challenges and hurdles, it's been good. I mean, we're trying to get back to business the right way and keep people safe.
Oh, that's neat. I had called them and asked them about how that was working, and they did say they had plenty of supplies, but it was first come, first serve. So it's a good thing that you were not only able to get that, but get the replacement. Chief, have you heard any comments or anything from the community about getting the PPE supplies from Pierce County?
Yes. So from our perspective, we jumped on it very early. March 2nd was the actual first day that I changed our response protocols for PPE. So I wanted to jump on it early with the citizens in mind so that we could continue to deliver our service that we're charged with. The only way we could do that is with a healthy workforce. So to begin with, we had a finite supply of PPE, and we were really worried that we would run out. But we kind of jumped on it ahead of some area fire departments. So we had availability to PPE early. And then as it kind of started coming from the county and the state, of course, we were in line to get that. So we never were compromised with PPE, but we were nervous a couple times.
Wow. Have you heard any from community members or local businesses having any challenges, or were they able to get it okay?
So I honestly haven't heard from our business community whether they were, able to get it or not. I haven't heard that, Karen.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I mean, shout out to Dawn Sorensen in my office. Hi, Dawn. I know you're watching.
Hi,
and we tried to be more on time today, so thank you. But she told us about how there was a huge line of cars. They went to Sprinker. That's where they're handing out the PPE. And you had kind of these scheduled times to get it. And so thousands actually of applicants going in line in their cars and then getting the supply drop. So Dawn went out there and got that. And like I was saying, it was a mostly fluid process. I mean, nothing's perfect, but the county did a good job with it. We're thankful.
Good. So Jimmy, I think my perspective from we're first responders, frontline first responders, I felt the same way that we were supported really well by our county to get in line for PPE. I feel the same way.
Yeah, good.
Wonderful. So we have a couple of community updates that we will touch on before we get to Chief Dale's announcement. So obviously we have moved into phase 2. Have you guys heard any comments or questions? I mean, I will tell you from my perspective, I've seen a lot of things on social media of a lot of our GBA members personally are opening back up. And we want to make sure that we continue to support not only our members, but other small businesses, local businesses, things in our community. Have you guys heard anything from our community about opening up phase 2? I'm sure people are excited. What have you heard? Nothing?
Chief Dale? No, I haven't.
Sorry.
I haven't heard a lot. Yeah, I mean, and even in phase 2, it's an interesting thing. You get services taken away or your routines taken away, and it's not just a light switch to jump back into some of the routines. So we're hoping that people are returning to businesses as best they can safely. But
well, it looks like we lost Jimmy for a second.
Yep.
Personally, it's just a slow. Oh, coming back. A phone call tried to come through.
Oh.
So
I was like, wait,
I'll blame my cousin and tag him in the comments later. Yeah. So, but No, it's something that you're, even as personally, you're just trying to find out how do you get back to normal safely, with the masks and everything. But it's, you go out to lunch like once, or start to work your way back in, but
Mhm.
it's still not quite back to normal. And that's the
Yeah.
struggle for businesses.
So it's interesting for me to hear your perspective from business, because I've been so focused on, our first responders. And I'll tell you, my perspective has been that I've been really trying to lead our organization to be vigilant about protecting themselves so that we have a healthy workforce, so we don't compromise our ability to respond to 911 calls. That's what we exist for. And it's a challenge because of the things you're talking about. There's this human condition I see amongst our 100 firefighters, that it's hard. It's difficult to wear PPE. It's hard to communicate through. It's stressful. They didn't know they were signing up for this when they became firefighters. They're possibly exposed to patients that they can take back home to their little kiddos and babies. And it's very stressful. But my want right now is to try to fend off this caution fatigue that I think is starting to, people here, we go to phase 2
Yeah.
and they start letting their guard down. And before you know it, we're going to get somebody exposed and sick. So I'm trying to, we're actually with intent lagging behind Pierce, the states and our county going to phase 2, especially specifically our county. I'm sort of lagging behind that by a couple of weeks, just to make sure that we're not going to have a positive COVID case so that we can continue delivering our service. We did have one positive COVID firefighter early on back in March, and it was actually a communal exposure. It wasn't through the responses at work. He was a young man and exposed off duty, but he was ill for just a couple days. And, of course, we isolated and quarantined him for 2 weeks, and he was able to come back to work at that time healthy. And that's, knock on wood, been the only case that we've had in your Graham Fire Department.
Well, we appreciate you guys as first responders and keeping our community as safe as possible. And we appreciate you putting your lives on the line every day in so many situations that maybe some of us might take for granted because we don't see it. But no,
Thank you, Karen.
you are appreciated for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, did you sign up for this? Well, yes, but you don't know what those tangible conditions
Right.
What it really
you
meant.
walk
Yeah.
in those shoes. So just know that we appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Karen. I'll pass that on, because I want to be clear that, I'm leading the organization, but I'm not the one on the medic units and the trucks wearing the goggles and mask and gowns and gloves. Honestly, I have almost 40 years of experience in the fire service, and I've not had to do that. So I always try to lead our members by saying, I have empathy for you. I know what you're going through. Ironically, this is a time I haven't done what they're doing. In my whole 40 years, I didn't have to, I've been through, the avian flu and SARS-1, but honestly, nothing to this level in my 40 years.
None of us. Wow. And the heat's not even coming. It's hard enough just going to the grocery store. I can't see.
Right.
I feel like my peripheral, like it's hard. It's challenging. So your job is hard enough. And I just hope and pray that our community continues to stay safe with all of the protesting and the going out, and it's only phase 2, and it just makes your job that much harder. So we pray that you guys keep safe, every single one of you.
Thank you, Karen. I'll pass that on.
Anything else about that before we get to a couple more community items, and then we will hear the announcement? Anything else, Jimmy?
We'll go through, go through your announcements that you have, Karen.
Let me go through my announcements. Okay, little Miss Loretta Folk, we had her on our hangout a couple weeks ago. She is with the Graham Stakes community, and she has a couple of things that she wanted to make sure that we continue.
And she's a ball of joy too. Great for the community.
Is a ball of joy. And you know what? She loves being called at the last minute to say, hey, go live with us on Facebook. Just kidding. It freaked her out. She did great. So power packs from the Harvest House. So here's an update about this. We talked about helping out through the summer, but here's what they're going to do. They do an auction every year in August to raise money to fund that program. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to help as a community with their auction. And we're going to provide money, donations, whatever it is that they need to help fund their program for going. So when we get more information from Loretta, best be sure that we are passing that on to you guys so you can be prepared for that. The second thing she wanted me to make sure that we cover is the up and coming blood drive. It is in the Graham area and it is on June 27th. They are taking appointments now. They are keeping in line with all of the restrictions with the social distancing and the sanitization and everything. So should be a safe environment, but it is so needed and blood does save lives. So June 27th, mark your calendar in the June area. You can sign up. There's a flyer that is on our GBA Facebook page for the blood drive, but just know that the sign up is under signup.com. So it gives you more specific information on that flyer. We also want to give shout outs in the Bethel School District for our graduating classes of 2020. You guys have endured quite a bit in your senior year that none of us can imagine. So congratulations to Graham Kapowson High School, to Spanaway Lake High School, to Bethel High School, and also Challenger High School. So congratulations to you guys.
Congratulations.
May your future be very bright. If you guys can survive this, you can survive anything. So one of the things I will leave in the community update will be for Chief Dale. We'll talk about stroke, heart, AEDs, and CPR awareness. So that is such a great topic. You'll find more information on the Graham Fire and Rescue Facebook social media platforms. So with all of that being said, let's turn this over to Chief Dale and hear about his announcement.
Awesome. Again, thank you, Karen and Jimmy, so much for having me here. And the timing is perfect because I have a really great announcement that I'm really excited to announce. I actually announced it for the first time publicly yesterday, and Cairo News Crew came out and did a story on it. That's just awesome. So earlier this year, we were visited by the Washington Surveying and Rating Bureau, otherwise known as WSRB. They evaluate the capabilities of fire protection, related to fire protection that fire departments have within their community. So there's a lot of metrics that they use to evaluate a fire department, but they end up establishing a classification rating from 1 to 10. And it's like golf, the lower the number, the better. So 1 is superior. Okay. And I'm excited to announce right now that your Graham Fire and Rescue has moved from a classification rating of 4 to a 3, which is a pretty huge deal. Yeah, so that 3 rating, there's 647 fire departments that undergo this rating in our state, and that 3 rating puts us in the top 10% of fire protection capability of the top 10% of fire departments in our state. So we're very proud of that.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. Well, really
fantastic.
It is fantastic. Now the story really starts, and the thank you goes back to you, our community, because it starts 2 years ago. If you recall, there was a maintenance and operations levy that was on a ballot 2 years ago in 2018 that we're fortunate enough to have the support of our community because that passed. And with that maintenance and operations levy, we said that we would hire 18 firefighters, fund an apparatus replacement plan, and bring on more volunteers. So we hired 18 firefighters since 2018. We bought a new water tender, which I'll talk more about. And we recruited and trained 14 new volunteer firefighters. And those were all a huge part of an increased capability that was recognized as a 4 to a 3. Now, what the classification means is insurance companies for property insurance, homeowners, and business insurance use those classification ratings to determine fair values for property insurance. So this takes effect July 1st in about 19 days. And so we want everybody to contact their insurance carrier and as of July 1st, and we're going to send out a mailer to all 24,000 address points in our Graham Fire District on June 29th to remind everyone, check with your insurance carrier because you'll likely receive a decrease in your insurance premiums, businesses and residences alike. And I'll tell you what we historically, a number that I can give you, because you're probably wondering, well, what does that look like? It's about 10%
Wow.
that you could save in your insurance premiums
It's
because
worth
of,
making that phone call.
right? So it's literally because of the support of our great community here. And I'm just humbled by the fact that we're supported so well in this community. It actually comes full circle to where we improved the service, we were recognized, and we're putting money back in the pockets of our citizens for the support that you have and the work that we've done to improve our service delivery. So that's why I'm so excited about that announcement.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Congratulations, and congratulations to the community. And I like
Well, a
how
great
you-
investment paid off, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, yes.
It's a
and it helps
tangible, right? Can I circle back? I mentioned once, so we hired
do.
18 firefighters. That was a big part of, adding people on the trucks. That has helped improve our response times. That's our huge deal to me to lead our organization is we exist to respond to 911 calls to arrive at address points. Now, when we do it faster, intervene in strokes, heart attacks, out of control fires, the sooner we intervene, the better the outcome. So we've improved our response times with the 18 people. We brought on 14 volunteers. We value volunteers still in our Graham Fire and Rescue. So you may not know that, but that's part of our staffing plan is to bring on volunteers. We value them. They added value to our classification improvement rating. And if anyone's interested, go to our website, and we're always accepting applications, and we'll be running a process starting September 1st to onboard hopefully another 10 to 12 volunteers once again in the fall. The last piece is the apparatus. So in that, we also purchased a water tender, which is a big truck that carries about 2,000 plus gallons of water to serve those areas in our southern part of our district that aren't served by hydrants. So we mobily bring in water to, and we have two of them. We had one, we bought a second one, and in that WSRB evaluation, we received credits for that there's an area down in our southern part of our 70 square miles that don't have hydrants. There's 4,700 address points that will receive a significant, because of that rating increase in that area from WSRB, they'll receive a significant reduction in their homeowners insurance. And there's about 4,700 address points.
Wow.
That will receive more significant than 10%, because that tender credit allows us to bring in water to help mitigate out of control fires. So I wanted to mention that has an even larger effect, and we'll take delivery of that water tender around the 1st of September, and we'll have a huge outreach and a gala affair celebrating again the support of our community to allow us to purchase that tender to full circle. Good investment. We put money back in the pockets of our citizens through their insurance premiums.
Well, we
Reduce
can't wait
insurance
to be a
premiums.
part of that for you. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, the thanks again really goes back to the community. So I
Thanks,
accept your thank you
community.
and right back to you.
I love it. I love it. So Chief, you mentioned, we had been talking, just so everybody knows, we've been talking about, May being Stroke Awareness Month, and June, especially the first week of June, is CPR and AED awareness because of heart. Would you like to talk a little bit more about that, Chief? I mean, obviously it's a very personal topic for me. Most of you guys know I am a stroke survivor. It was March 2nd, 2007, so I'm 13 years out. I still have deficits. I'm still very passionate about it. I'm a huge advocate for heart and stroke. As you guys know that, I have an online support group, so it is something I live with every day. So Chief, would you like to talk about what you guys have noticed, especially with the coronavirus, the shutdown, what you've seen from 911 calls, things like that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen. And congratulations on your your health condition now.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I can see that you're passionate about it. So I'm happy to talk about it. It's the connection to COVID is something that we didn't anticipate back in April. What we noticed in our call volume, and actually the types of calls we were going to weren't just cardiac and stroke related. They actually were cardiac arrest instead of cardiac symptoms. So there was quite a number of these, and what we came to find out was during the month of April, because of, I think, the heightened awareness about COVID, those patients were, I mean, let's just allow me to say it, they were waiting so long because of their nervousness about going to a hospital that they were literally on their deathbed before they would call 911. And so our intervention was late in the process, and that was a bad cycle. So we did, Brianna, who I know is tuned in watching us right now, she's our community outreach officer who's just doing outstanding work. She did a campaign through our outreach to let people know, please don't hesitate to call 911. It's important that we intervene early, and we think that outreach made a significant impact. So that we didn't see coming, but as April, through March and April came along, that was an event that we noticed and immediately did an outreach campaign, thanks to Brianna, and I think it had a real positive outcome. So we still say, don't hesitate to call 911 with early symptoms. That's the best chance for a good outcome. So now May came along, and that was stroke. May was Stroke Awareness Month, as you know very well, Karen. So again, our community outreach officer, Brianna, did help raise awareness by doing several posts on our social media platforms and our website. And something that she uses, do you know of the acronym FAST, Karen?
I sure do.
Okay, well, I sort of have to refer to some notes I made about FAST, but FAST comes from the saying that, does their face droop to one side, right?
Mine does.
They have don't even notice it.
Where you see it is my smile. Like my mouth is, it's my left side. Just
Okay.
saying. Yeah, I have it
So
all.
these are. Well, this is what we, as you know all too well, we posted to try to help recognize symptoms. So the second one, then that's the F in FAST is face, and the A is, do they have trouble raising one or both arms? So the A is arms, and then the S, did they have trouble speaking, some slurred speech or difficulty with that? And all that comes together with symptoms that say it's time to call 911. Time to call. So that's the T. And I know I had to refer to notes. Brianna and Karen probably wouldn't have to, but that's what the platform that Brianna did such a good job of, getting out there in our social media platforms. So then moving into away from stroke into CPR, last week was CPR and AED, which stands for Automatic External Defibrillation Awareness Week. And again, we had outreach during last week with messaging to raise awareness along with that. And of course, CPR, if done correctly, and I'll add my own editorial comment, just really any effort towards CPR, if it's not perfect, is going to increase chances for survival of somebody in a cardiac event. And the last thing I want to mention is an app that's called Pulse Point. I don't know if you guys have heard of Pulse Point, but you can literally just go to the App Store, search Pulse Point. It's a great program. It's nationwide. And what it does is it wants to advocate that you get trained in CPR first. And then what it will do is let you know with sort of the GPS, if there's a cardiac event near you, you can see on not somebody's personal information, in that way, but a point where there's been a 911 call. And if you're trained in CPR, citizens actually can intervene prior to our arrival because of their proximity, start CPR, and it just increases a good outcome. So you can find out more about that on our Graham social media places, our website, and visit Graham Fire and Rescue. And I wanted to also say CPR, we don't actually have firefighters that train CPR through Graham and Fire Rescue, but we're partnered with Cascade Healthcare Services. And so we connect people with them to get CPR training. And it's a great model of citizen involvement for CPR intervention early.
Mhm.
So I wanted to mention that also.
Well, and I've appreciated through the years, Chief, your department coming to our Grand Business Association meetings, helping keep us up to date on CPR protocols and demonstrations. So every few years, just continuing to keep in touch, and that's been helpful over the years.
Great.
I will say when it comes to CPR, I did take the class at Foss High School a couple years ago. It was a huge event. I think it was like a 2-day event or all-day event, but like 2 sessions. Well, anyways, what I found was very important is how CPR has changed over the years. And I think it's important for people to recognize that CPR now is hands-only CPR.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that are intimidated by CPR because they feel like, I don't want to put my mouth on somebody. You don't have to.
Right.
And people who learned CPR 20 years ago say, well, I already learned CPR. I don't need to go back. However, the way we do CPR and what we have learned since then has changed. And when I talk to people about CPR, because like I said, I'm a huge advocate for heart and stroke, but when I talk to people about CPR, people think, oh, I learned it 20 years ago, so therefore I know everything I know. But I say, do you remember everything that you learned in your class in college 20 years ago? No, you don't. Things have changed. You forget things. Time goes on. It becomes a blur. And so it's important to not only get trained in CPR, but continue your education and go back every 2 years because maybe something has changed. Maybe you need a refresher, whatever the case may be, but your life is at stake. And going back to the stroke, when you were talking about T being for time to call, we also say that time lost is brain lost. And with stroke, time is of the essence. Like, minutes matter. Minutes matter. So what I say when I do a lot of speaking, I share my story. We talk about stroke. We talk about the warning signs. But I also tell everybody to make it their mission to learn and recognize the warning signs of stroke. So you may be there to save the ones that you love, but make it your mission that the ones you love know the warning signs of stroke, so they may be there to save you.
Right.
Because my husband saved my life that day because he recognized the warning signs of stroke. He didn't discount that I was only 37. I didn't have health issues. I didn't have all of the things on paper that you look for: high blood pressure, hypertension. I didn't do drugs, none of it. And so, but he recognized the signs and the symptoms, and he saved my life that day.
Wow.
And so it's really important that not only we, you, the 3 of us, that we know it, but our loved ones around us know it because they may be there to save you.
Such a good point.
Yeah, and I did a talk at a health class at Foss High School a couple years back for the American Heart Association, and it was right before Thanksgiving. And these high schoolers are looking at me like, first of all, that is never going to happen to me. And I was like, second of all, I didn't think it was ever going to happen to me at 37, but things happen. And so they were kind of confused about, why do I need to know this? Why do I need to know face, arms, speech, time? And I was saying, we're coming up on Thanksgiving and you're getting together with your loved ones, your brothers, your sisters, your moms, your dads, your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents, and it could happen to them. And if you don't recognize it and you let time go, and like you said, Chief Dale, time is of the essence. It makes a difference. So it really hit home for them about why they needed to learn that. This is not something that you wait years down the line to learn. You learn it now. And it's just so important for both issues. So I encourage everybody to get trained on CPR and continue your education about CPR because it is so important. And I have friends who are sudden cardiac arrest survivors, which you know that the survival rate for that is very low. I think the last time I heard it was like 7 or 8% of the people who have a sudden cardiac arrest die because an AED machine was not used or somebody didn't recognize that. And that's where your heart suddenly stops. There's an electrical connection that just stops. And that's different than a heart attack. And so learning about AED, having that accessible, knowing where they are, it walks you through everything. So
Totally.
it is, I could go on and on. It is a passionate topic for mine. And I love talking about that. So I hope one person listening to this, it encourages them to learn more about it.
Is there a
Well,
AED locator on that Pulse Point app? Do you know, Chief Joe?
I
Or
don't
maybe
know
another
that.
way to do that? I wonder if that's loaded somewhere,
I mean,
that kind of information.
that's a great question.
I do see AEDs around more and more. It's something
Right.
Yeah.
I give them a shout out. Good for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of organizations I'm still involved with, people from the American Heart Association or the Sudden Cardiac Arrest Association, especially in Pierce County. They're great friends of mine, and I'm fortunate that I have friends that are sudden cardiac arrest survivors because they are a rare breed. They're a rare breed. They have survival stories that will shake you to your core and makes you want to learn. Yeah.
Jimmy,
So-
I'm sorry, Jimmy, your question, that was such a good one about AEDs on Pulse Point. I'm getting fed information that yes, there is a
Great.
Pulse Point AED. The app comes in 2 versions, AED and just
Okay.
response to CPR. So your question is
Great.
excellent, and immediately I got fed information.
That'd be great to have everybody
Yes.
have that downloaded. I'm going to download
Right?
that, and then you
I'm
can
gonna
go to
download
it. Yeah.
Well,
It's
you-
seriously a great program.
You
Really
mentioned about
successful.
your website and going information. Do you want to give a shout out or a plug for your e-newsletter that is just launched?
Yes, so Brianna has just launched our e-newsletter. She's growing that listserv, group, and it's going to be just one more way that it's a brand new way for us to get that growing list of people that we can keep up to date on these kind of things that you're so nice to invite me to talk about. And so Brianna has launched that off of our website, and thanks for asking about that.
Fantastic.
I know that you know about it. It's really great. Yeah. She's
Yeah.
doing a great job with that outreach, which I
Absolutely.
will, when I get the time. Our outreach has been modified, of course, because of COVID. So when the time is right, I'll be glad to talk a little bit about that.
So
Okay.
I would like to invite you to come back to our hangout, maybe when phase 3 happens,
Okay.
and we can get a little bit of an update from you, from first responders, how things are changed, what's different, what we can do, anything like that. I think it would be great. So we
Okay.
invite you to come back if you're interested in hanging out with us
Absolutely.
again.
There is one more thing I'd like to talk about that would be relative, because it will come before I'll get to visit you again on phase 3. Thanks for the invitation. I already accept.
Good deal.
And that's coming up in less than 3 weeks, and that's the 4th of July.
Yeah.
It's been on my mind, and I just want to say a few things that and it's related to COVID. First of all, the Department of Natural Resources has informed us that they're predicting a very dry summer here on the west side also. So the perfect storms lining up, where you see we've had a wet month of April, and wet now in June, and we would think that's going to help suppress the wildland urban interface fires, where houses get built into vegetation. But really what happens is all that rain grows a lot of lush vegetation, more vegetation. Then when the dry hot weather comes, there's a lot more fuel load. Okay, so now there's more fuel, bigger fires. It's kind of counterintuitive that way. The part that's relative to COVID is that we typically advocate people, instead of using fireworks at their own home or their residence, we advocate going to the larger pyrotechnic shows, the professional shows, and viewing them in that way, so that they're not discharging fireworks at their house. Where over the 38 years I've done this, I've seen fingers lost and eyes lost and houses burned down, and it's just, there's a lot that happens on the 4th of July. But this year we're predicting that's not going to happen because of the restriction on large gatherings of people. It's going to sort of force people back into neighborhoods and residences, and with the dry conditions, more vegetation, we're kind of worried. I'm kind of worried about what that's going to do to the 4th of July. So we're going to have outreach that we're timing to start suggesting people be very careful with fireworks and be aware of the dry weather and increased vegetation, and that there's going to be more people staying at home, not going to the larger pyrotechnic shows. And so we'll have firework safety tips, about children being supervised and having a source of extinguishment nearby, keeping fireworks away from the vegetation near your house, the arborvitaes that go up like candles, and those sort of things. The secondly, that's relative to COVID is when we have had large brush fires in the Graham area, my experience is the smoke tends to kind of lay over huge areas like neighborhoods. And COVID is a respiratory disease. It's SARS-2. That's a respiratory disease. So I think we'll have secondary possibly calls while a big brush fire is going on with people having increased respiratory, the respiratory problems exacerbated with the smoke. And that's going to be another big drain on our resource. So I'm simultaneous calls. So I'm kind of worried about that. And we're going to get the message out to try to prevent the fires from happening on the 4th of July. So I wanted to mention that as it relates to COVID also.
That's important.
Interesting point. Wow, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
So are you saying basically stay home and watch on TV?
That would be even better. But I mean,
It's 4th of July. Yeah,
right.
that.
Enjoy the shows wherever they're going to be at on the 4th of July. But just use safe fireworks. Limit your discharge to the hours that the county has set out, and just the safety things that we're going to put out on our social media and outreach and our e-newsletter. So I can say that the discharge times are July 1st through the 3rd, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. On the actual 4th of July, it's 10 a.m. to midnight. Those are the hours in unincorporated Pierce County that are allowed for discharge. So we're hoping that people use safety precautions and be vigilant and careful on the 4th of July and those days leading up to the 4th. So thanks for allowing me to bring that up.
Absolutely.
All good points. Well, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Jimmy, do you have anything else?
No, not on my end. And enjoyed hanging out as always.
I
Me
know,
too.
what a fun hangout. It's been a lot of fun and a lot of great information. Now I'm going to be all inside for the 4th.
Not a bad
I mean,
place to
let's
be.
barbecue inside the house.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, that's
yeah, Chief. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, barbecue
Yeah.
inside the house.
Yeah. No.
I think we're going backwards there, Karen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's bad too. Got it. I meant on the
Yeah, on the deck.
Oh yeah, that too. No, I'll be inside. I'll be in bed by 8 o'clock, I'm sure.
But yeah, we appreciate Chief Dale, the years of partnership with the Graham Business Association and Graham Fire, and hosting us for events and meetings for years and years and years in a community space. You have such a great headquarters there, and we're excited to be able to get the community back involved when we are allowed to have events and things like that.
Absolutely, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Thank
you had
you.
renovation there. I can't wait to see it. It's been too long, and now with the
It has
show,
been too long.
even longer. So
Yeah.
wait to get back there and celebrate with you guys and show you how much we appreciate you.
Thank you, Karen. Look forward to having you guys back too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. So then on that note, thank you so much, Chief Dale, for hanging out. Thank you for everything you do and all the information. There is a link to their newsletter there in the description. So just click on that, sign up for their newsletter, get some great information, and we'll continue to help share stuff in our community to help keep everyone safe. So praying everyone stays safe.
Thanks, Karen.
Wonderful.
All
Thank you
right,
for having
bye-bye,
me, Dale.
everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks,
Have a
Karen.
great day.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Pleasure.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.